Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Dirty Harry, brought to us by Mindscape and Gray Matter. While the official title is Dirty Harry, The War Against Drugs, that title appears nowhere on the box art or actually in the game. And while the game is not based on one particular movie in the Dirty Harry franchise, it does have references to some of the movies, including the box art, which is actually based on the poster for Sudden Impact, the fourth Dirty Harry movie. And one of the better parts of the game is that it includes a few digitized voice samples. However, I can't really say too many good things about the gameplay. The controls in Dirty Harry and the mechanics are some of the worst I've seen in the NES. Now as the game starts up, I'm going to let you listen to the first of the voice samples.
Go ahead. Make my day.
After we hear that famous line from Sudden Impact, we now have Dirty Harry on the screen, and then we're going to flash to a blue screen giving us some more copyright information. Also, after the first title screen, we also have a credit screen, so there's not going to be any credits at the end of the game. Now actually at the startup screen for the game, you can either put in a password to go to level 2 or 3, or go straight into the actual first level of the game. While stages 2 and 3 are actually pretty linear, just going from left to right, stage 1 is non-linear, having branching paths and multiple buildings to go into, and is one of the more confusing levels on the NES. I'm going to try to use the quickest path as well as the most effective path to get through this stage. This is easily one of the hardest stages to get through when you don't have a guide. Now we start off by entering the second building here, and you jump in front of this guy flipping a coin, and he somehow changes suits with you. I'm not exactly sure why he does that, but we're going to be needing the white suit in order to get past a bodyguard in the first building that we passed. It's not essential to actually change suits and get past the bodyguard, but it will net you a few extra lives pretty early in the game. In stage number 1, we have a few items that we're going to have to use a lot. Those are bombs that can blow up safes, as well as kill the snakes that are on the ground, or you can jump on them, as well as the crowbars that open up doors. There's also some key items, including the item I just got from that safe by blowing it with one of the bombs, which is the flashlight, which allows you to see inside the sewers. If you go down into one of the sewers without the flashlight, it's completely dark and you won't be able to see where you're going. If you want to kill the snakes outside of just blowing them up with a bomb, you can jump on them, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily work and you'll end up taking a hit for it. Usually I like to wait for them just about to hit me, jump, and you'll stun them. Sometimes if you time your jump even better, you'll actually be able to kill them off screen by jumping on them. Inside most of the safes, besides a few key items, mainly they're going to be drugs inside. Now the drugs don't net you anything special in the game, any bonuses or anything, but they give you extra points. Now, unfortunately, even though you do get a point score in the game, as you can see when you pause it, you have a score at the bottom of the screen. However, there's not even a high score listing at the end of the game either. Now that guy I just walked past, that big guy, was the guy I needed to be in the white suit for. Go into the next room, there's a random woman standing there, I guess she was being held hostage. Jump in front of her, and she'll give you 3 lives. By just looking at the game, you may not necessarily think it looks too bad. However, this game has some of the worst controls on the NES. Your B button is attack. You either punch straight forward, or if you hold up, you can kick. Punching is just about as effective as kicking. There's really no benefit to kicking particular enemies. You do, however, need to use the kick to open a lot of the different cabinets and dressers that are in each of the buildings. The A button brings out your gun, which you then press it again to fire. The A button also will use the items from your inventory screen besides the weapons, including eating chili dogs for extra health, or dropping the bombs. The absolute hardest part about the controls is the jumping. You have to press A and B together in order to jump. Pressing A and B together and then moving in a direction will cause you to jump either left or right. Because of being 2 buttons at the same time, the game is very sensitive to making sure you get to press them at the exact same time, so there's going to be plenty of times you want to jump and the game won't let you. The game may also have you jump straight up even though you want to jump to the left or right. While not too much of a problem in the first stage of the game, the other stages have some pretty tough platforming and you have to have precise jumping. So A and B together plus precise jumping equals a lot of unfortunate deaths or misses in terms of the jump. When you enter this building, make sure to jump in front of the drunk or homeless guy on the ground in order to get yourself an extra life. Inside of these rooms, you have to use the kick button to destroy the dresser and random boxes in here. You also have to jump on the boxes on the direct floor in order to open them up. Some of the rooms, as you can see, I'm not opening certain crates. Either they contain nothing, or they're actually containing a bomb which will explode and end up hurting you. Thankfully, all the items are always the same every time you play the game. They don't randomly change up the items or layout of the rooms. So if you know a bomb's in one room in one particular box, it's always going to be there every time you play. Inside this room, make sure you open the first dresser to get a crucial chili dog. That's actually the second one that we've picked up. It may look like we have a lot of health now, but some of the later enemies, some of the later bosses, will drain your health in only 2 or 3 hits at most. Even some of the later normal enemies can drain your health really quickly. As far as the Lasergrid Rooms go, when you know you're about to enter one, just slowly enter, stop by the door. The lasers won't be able to hit you once you first enter the room. This will give you a good opportunity to see exactly what pattern they're going in. Sometimes they're very close together, or sometimes they're far spread apart. You then have to time your jumping. Usually if they're far apart, like a big gap in between, jump over one of them into the middle, and then jump over the next one and go through the door on the opposite side. If they do hit you, they do deal a lot of damage, and you have to be careful about them. And with the jumping being that bad, you won't be able to always get over them, even when you think you should have. Hit detection is also something that's pretty poor in the game. Sometimes you'll end up being hit by a bullet, or step on a mine, or the laser grid, even though it looks like your character should have missed it, and sometimes you'll be standing directly on a mine, and it won't explode on you. Inside this building is one of the better items that we can get in this level. Once you enter, go all the way to the right here, go up, and there's going to be a guy bouncing a basketball. Jump in front of him and he gives you a bulletproof vest. There's only a few of these in the entire game, but what they do is they net you a lot of free hits. So if a bullet hits you, you'll see that you actually won't take damage. You'll react a little bit, but your character won't flash, and if you look at your health, you didn't take any damage. You can also check your status screen or your inventory to see how many free hits you still have. Inside this building, jump in front of the guy with the boombox in order to get yourself a few extra bombs. Once we are outside this building, we're actually going to enter the sewer for the first time. There's actually lots of different sewer entrances throughout the stage, but most of them are just going to lead to a dead end. This is one of the only 2 that we're actually going to enter. The sewer has some of the absolute worst of the platforming in the entire game, mainly from this area. You have to jump onto this lily pad that's floating across the water, I assume it's a lily pad at least, and then get ourselves up, watch out for the slime, as well as the electrical current that's coming from the wall. If you end up missing the lily pad and fall into the water, you end up losing a life. On the wall, there's little switches that you have to press up on in order to activate. You can see I already activated one, and there's one over here which I'll activate, and then I'm going to go up this ladder. By pressing the buttons, they open up the different grates that allow us to enter more parts of the sewer. If you miss one of these, you may find yourself having to backtrack a long ways in order to find the other button that you missed in order to open up a sewer grate that you have to get through. The reason I went all the way up those other set of ladders to that dead end was to activate the button that opened that grate. Inside the sewer, you can see that you can actually use the jump to your advantage to either jump over the electrical sparks or to avoid some enemies. Just be careful, because if you try to jump where a grate is, you'll end up hitting it and you'll just fall straight down. So if you're trying to avoid certain things, you may end up getting hit by it if there is one of those grates hanging from the ceiling. Take your time while going across these shimmying parts, watching out for the electrical currents. A lot of the different patterns that the electrical currents use is not always the same, so you may think you have an opportunity to go across, and all of a sudden it'll turn back on in a very quick second and you'll end up getting shocked by it.